Well, Razorback fans, it is official crossover season for the Razorbacks as we're going to do a little Locked On crossover action with our guy, Steven Willis of Locked On Ole Miss. Talk about this game and what could end up transpiring on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Steven Willis from Locked On Ole Miss, John Nabors from Locked On Razorbacks. And John, I have to know, because you see all of these top 10 lists come out of top quarterbacks in the SEC, and Taylen Green is on there. And I get it. He has 10 touchdowns this season. Everybody's excited about that. But 6 of them came against the team that made Peyton Thorne look like a freaking Unitas candidate the year before. What am I missing?
Well, I look at it in the perspective of, did you do what you were supposed to do? Did you look good doing it? Because here's the deal. If he only threw 1 touchdown pass or no touchdown passes against Alabama A&M, it would probably be a talking point of like, well, if you can't do it against Alabama A&M, can you do it against Ole Miss? Can you do it in the SEC? But when you go out and you throw 6, like, I mean, you're going to sit here and say, right now has to be the Heisman after 6 touchdown passes. No, but it's about doing the job that you're supposed to do. If you're Taylen Green, if you want to be that great quarterback in the SEC, you got to dominate bad teams. You got to dominate bad defenses. And Taylen Green did that in that game. He did it against Arkansas State. And that's why this game against Ole Miss is so important, because it's going to showcase if it's all for naught or if he's actually legitimately going to be considered one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC.
You know, we've done these crossovers for multiple years, and I don't know if I've seen you this giddy about an Ole Miss Arkansas game during our crossover span. You really think that Arkansas has a good chance Saturday?
Well, I think the reason you haven't seen it is because we haven't played this early in the season. You know?
That's true.
Things haven't gone wrong. I mean, last year was a little bit earlier, but Arkansas already lost a few games leading into that. The year before that, I believe, was at the end of the season, like second to last game.
Yeah. That was the Auburn lane thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, that was 3 years ago. That was 2022.
Correct. Yeah. And then there was that, and then year before that was late. So I think that's a big part of it. And Arkansas is undefeated. And again, I know that they have not played high-level competition. I'm not sitting here saying that they have. But you can only play the games in front of you. And in the 2 games that they've played, they've looked really good. It's not to say it's been perfect. I mean, Taylen Green's thrown 2 interceptions. Their defense has had some issues here and there. Definitely far from perfect, but so far the season's perfect. And I think from the perspective of Razorback fans, there's optimism there. But, Ole Miss, you're undefeated too, playing much better competition. But I think after seeing that Kentucky game and maybe Austin Simmons, not saying Arkansas fans feel for sure they're going to win, but they feel a little bit more confident that it could happen based on those things that we've seen.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat on Twitter that since 2021, Ole Miss is like the 6th highest winning percentage at home, which that kind of surprised me a little bit because of the history of the program and all of that. But yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I think I'll put it like this. If both teams play their A games, Ole Miss is going to win. Ole Miss has to help out Arkansas. The interceptions, turnover on downs, bad penalties, the sloppiness, they have to help out Arkansas for that to happen. But you don't have to help out Arkansas as much as you did last year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. I see it the same way, where if we're just talking about on paper, matching up rosters, matching up talent, matching up coaching, all of those things, if both teams play their A game, if both coaches coach their A game, Ole Miss wins. And I don't think that's a controversial take. But as we all know, college football never goes according to plan, especially in this game. And also, too, I think Ole Miss has won the last 2, but Sam Pittman's had some success against Ole Miss. It's not like this boogeyman like Missouri or A&M that he just can't figure out ways to beat. There's been some success. There's been some wild things. And I know that these rosters are different. Obviously, Bobby Petrino is being the offense coordinator there, and he's doing a good job so far. It's just, it gives, I think, Razorback fans hope that if we're going to get excited about this year, if we're going to feel good about this year, which nobody did going into it, it's got to be starting with a win over Ole Miss. Because if Arkansas does it, it changes everybody's mind and narrative. But I agree. if Ole Miss plays their A game, they win this game. It's just a matter of, does Arkansas play their A game and keep it close, or do they play like they did last year and get records set on them?
Yeah, and I don't think that Arkansas fans need to like go all in on this. Well, now you want this game because this is the drunk uncle of SEC football. I mean, crazy stuff can happen. I mean, somebody that's been dead for 30 years could like turn up in the crowd and you're like, oh, it's the Ole Miss Arkansas game. That makes sense. But I think the Notre Dame game is more of the perception game than even the Ole Miss game would be for Arkansas fans. If you're 4-1 after Notre Dame, I think at that point you can kind of start to feel better. I mean, Arkansas coming into the season, nobody expected them to be in the hunt for a playoff, but they just didn't want to go to the Liberty Bowl. They wanted to go to a Florida Bowl game or something like that, one of those higher games. And I think a win out of Notre Dame would probably give them a little bit of the belief, because that's a home game, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, it's at the right old time at 11 a.m. On a Saturday.
Really? They set that at 11?
Of course they did. I mean, that's just what happens. I know. Razorback fans are very upset because this is the first time Arkansas Notre Dame have ever played in history. It'll probably be the only time we ever see Notre Dame come to Fayetteville. So it was very disappointing on that front. And I get what you're saying about that. I think it's more of just about the perception that Razorback fans have where, most of them, when they're doing their predictions and expectation for the season, no Razorback fans circled the Ole Miss game as a for sure win. And most of them didn't circle Notre Dame as a for sure win. But what they do see it as is, okay, well, we play Ole Miss every year. We know Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin knows us. Like, we do it all the time. But with Notre Dame, it's kind of like they don't know anything about Arkansas. They don't know anything. There's a mystery there. And I think that people can kind of hope on that. And it's also, too, with this game against Ole Miss, I think Razorback fans just want to have it. There's just that little short period of time, where they're like saying, hey, we could do a playoff. It's not going to happen, but if you beat Ole Miss, you're 3-0. And that week leading into that Memphis game on the road, which would be the next one, which is still stupid. They play on the road in Memphis, but that gives them saying, okay, we can beat them. We can beat Notre Dame. It elevates everybody. But if you beat Ole Miss or lose to Ole Miss, there's going to be that drop where suddenly it's like, well, I don't know if we can beat Memphis, and I don't know if we can beat Notre Dame. Now, if you do, it'll change. But I think Hog fans are just wanting to have a little bit of a consistent uptick of feeling good. And even if they lose to Notre Dame, I think most Razorback fans would rather, in my opinion, beat Ole Miss on the road than beat Notre Dame at home if they have their choice.
Well, they should, because once this thing goes to 9 games, that's going to be a permanent game, hopefully every single year, because it deserves to be, because Ole Miss and Arkansas played back in the Southwest Conference days. I mean, you don't have a lot of history until you join the SEC against a lot of teams, but against Ole Miss, you did. It goes back to the 50s, to the point where Frank Broyles was pissed off at Ole Miss and decided to quit playing them, which apparently is a thing, right?
Yeah. He usually got his way whenever he wanted to here at Arkansas. But no, I was actually talking about this on my show yesterday in discussing of all the games in the SEC, of all the teams that play each other every year and have played each other every year, you'd be hard pressed to find a game that has had more insane moments and iconic, legendary performances, all that, than these two teams that match up against each other. And I think there's just been a lot of similarities. I think Arkansas leads the series, but only by 7 games. It's not like it's this dominating over history. It's been a lot of back and forth, and it's a fun game. And I'm with you. It should remain a permanent opponent. I think that because of the history that's there and that's been there for a long time. I just think that it's one that the SEC deserves, and most people have to understand that this is something to talk about. This is a game people should look forward to, because it's always bananas and it's always insane no matter what. Yeah,
and it would be very SEC if Arkansas got like Texas and Oklahoma and Missouri as there's like no original SEC teams in their 3. That would be very SEC to do. Ole Miss and Arkansas need to play. They just do.
Yeah. I mean, it's Arkansas is not close to many schools proximity wise, except now they're only 3 hours or so from Oklahoma and Norman, which of course they'll never play each other in that. It's just whatever. But either way, not to say that Oxford is close to Fayetteville, because I think it's maybe 6 hours, 6-7 hours. But the point is like so close in proximity of not only from Little Rock, I think it's a 2.5 hour drive, something like that. But there's a lot of in-state kids that go to Ole Miss. There's some Arkansas kids that if they don't want to go to Arkansas, but they want to not be too far from home, I think Ole Miss is kind of a natural place for that. And so there's just too much history, too many connections, too many similarities for this to not be a constant thing. And at least I can only speak for Razorback fans. I think Razorback fans would be great with it. They would rather play Ole Miss every year than Missouri or, A&M. They'd rather do that. I don't know if Ole Miss fans feel the same way about Arkansas, but it's definitely something that I think Razorback fans are hopeful that it stays and remains in football.
Yeah, Ole Miss fans are currently fighting over the right to play Kentucky or Vanderbilt every year. But they know that that's probably not going to happen. The SEC is going to put them with like Auburn, since Auburn's going to get Alabama and Georgia. So if they take those off the table, I think everybody would naturally move to Arkansas. What's your feeling on the LSU game? Because I know Texas is a non-negotiable.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Texas, and I don't think it's going to be LSU, honestly. Because I think LSU, some of those teams just have too many ones that everybody wants to play. I think LSU, they're going to make sure that they play Bama every year. I think LSU plays Ole Miss every year, to be honest.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, and then I think they'll probably throw in either a Texas A&M because of whatever history, or maybe Florida because that's kind of developed into one for a while. But that's going to be happening. I think every Razorback fan understands it's probably more than likely going to be Texas, Ole Miss, and Missouri, which, it's not going to be the easiest thing. It's not going to be the most joyful thing because there is some things with LSU. But to me, that makes sense because I assumed that Ole Miss was going to have Mississippi State, LSU, and Arkansas. That's how I viewed it. And so, which again, it makes sense. It fits. But as we know, nobody cares what we think. No one cares what it's about what makes money, and whatever desire, whatever format's going to make the most money for the conference, that's what's going to happen. But I think and also too, a lot will disagree with me. I'd rather have Texas every year than LSU. Some of the newer fans join the SEC one LSU. I'm a newer fan, but playing Texas is always a bigger deal. Like LSU's a big deal. Don't get me wrong. But the history of Arkansas and Texas is there, and they are a big deal. I feel like they got to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come back, we will talk to John about players to watch from Arkansas. I'll let you know some players to watch from Ole Miss. I'm Steven Willis from Locked On Ole Miss. He's John Nabors from Locked On Razorbacks. We'll be right back after this.
We'll continue on our discussion with Steven Willis of Locked On Ole Miss here in just a second. But folks, it's almost the weekend. It's time to look back on who was this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most, so let's break it all down. This past weekend, we already talked about Xavier Sori being on there, but I'm going to give another shout out to, of course, Taylen Green. Taylen Green being the guy that leads the SEC with 10 touchdown passes. That's 5 more than anybody else in the SEC at this point in time, and is honestly going to be the player that's going to be the it factor for Arkansas throughout the entire season. As long as he stays healthy, as long as he plays well, the Razorbacks will have a really great season. It's as simple as that. And if you're watching, though, you know exactly that who's going to be the best. It's going to be Taylen. We believe in Taylen, and we're going to feel like he's going to get it done again this weekend, that's for sure. And just like Taylen Green delivered for the Razorbacks, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday that you order. Stack it up all season. You can save up to $250, including $150 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th.
All right, we got some players to watch in this game, John, that I'm pretty excited about. And lo and behold, Ole Miss has a running game this year. They have a running back that, honestly, I've heard 2 people completely unrelated that aren't Ole Miss people that said he runs the ball like Derek McFadden. Now, he's a long strider, the upright stuff. Yeah, I'm not saying he's a Heisman candidate, and he's not there yet. But whenever he was running around the corner, you could see that number 5, and he wears number 5 for Ole Miss. He's a good little back, and he's leading the SEC in rushing. I think that Kewan Lacey is the X factor in this ball game and could be the difference between a shootout for Ole Miss and a 10-point win because you were able to drain a little time off the clock.
You started this podcast. You're like, hey, I may ask a question about Taylen Green that may be upsetting to some Razorback fans. And I was like, oh, it's a fair one. That one you just made is probably the one that pissed off all the Razorback fans. You don't compare anybody to Darren McFadden, no matter what. But no, listen, it is kind of one of those deals to where, not to say that Ole Miss has only been, a passing offense and never had any rushing attack. It's not that. It's just when you think of, at least from our perspective here at Arkansas, you think of Lane Kiffin, you think of that offense, you think of passing, you think of, Jackson Dart, you think of Matt Corral, and all of that. And so I think that that's something that they're definitely going to have to understand, that they can run the ball too. And this is going to be a much better test that Arkansas has had offensively. But the thing is, you mentioned the running back there. Arkansas also has a running back in Mike Washington, which we've seen a little bit of. I think he's actually right now the fourth leading rusher in the SEC, which is just funny because, again, opponents and all you've played. But all fall camp from coaches, we heard about Mike Washington saying, this guy's insane. He's so good. He's so good. Right. I mean, okay. Yeah, he came from New Mexico, I guess, whatever. And then Bobby Petrino's like, oh, he reminds me of Nile Davis. I'm like, Nile Davis? Like, that guy was really good when he was healthy. And we got a little bit of it from this past weekend, but that's, to me, the biggest thing is that everyone talks about Taylen Green. Great player. Well, we mentioned Taylen Green. But Taylen Green's only going to be as good as the people around him. And I think that if Mike Washington's able to showcase that ability that we've been hearing about, that's going to be the best friend to Taylen Green to where he can make it work. So, but I think you got two really good running backs going into this. People talk about quarterbacks, but I think the running back matchup may be one that at the end of the season has two of the top 3 or 4 running backs in this matchup this weekend.
We were on the squad show talking about this game, and the squad show is going to air a little bit later on today. And we mentioned it's like we would not be surprised if it was 41-38, but we would also not be surprised if it was 17-13. And the running games, the more that we talk about the running games, I'm thinking this game could look a lot more like 2023 than the shootouts before it. I think that is something that is on the table.
I think so. I think that many times, at least when I'm going into a game like this, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be insane. It's going to be insanely high scoring. The only time I think that I actually felt that way and it ended up being that way was that game in 2021 in Oxford, where it's KJ Jefferson and them going back and forth. And Arkansas could have won the game they scored the last play of the game, could have had a 2-point conversion if they would have made it and won, but they didn't, and then ended up losing. But that was the only time where I went into it, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be high scoring, and it worked out that way. A couple of years ago when Arkansas went 4-8 and went into Oxford, I guess the last time they played in Oxford, that game was weirdly close. It was like 27-20. Made no sense. Arkansas was not a good football team, but either way, the point is, I could see it being high scoring for sure. But anytime I see it that way, I want to revert almost back to the opposite. I want to say, hey, this is something where Arkansas is going to face a defense that's better than anything they faced. And it's going to be, how do they handle that? How do they handle getting hit in the mouth now? How do they handle dealing with that? And it's going to be the same thing with the defense. The defense has done a really good job so far this year in theory, but I don't know about Arkansas's D-line depth. It's not very good. Can you get pressure on Austin Simmons? I feel like the key to this is going to be the defensive line in general, but especially guys like Phillip Lee, who had a good game last night, a defensive end, as well as Quincy Rhodes. If they can get pressure on Austin Simmons, I feel great about that. Because not to say better than me, but I feel like looking at the things, Austin Simmons may not be the most confident quarterback right now, and had the picks, maybe a little bit banged up. We'll see, but if I'm Arkansas, I'm going to put him to the test as soon as possible in the game and see if he can result himself from it. But I'm with you though. I feel like we feel all about offense, but this is going to come down to which defense makes the least amount of mistakes.
Yeah, and if Arkansas fans want to feel pretty good about it, Bobby Petrino has kind of had Pete Golding's number a little bit over the last couple of meetings. He scored 31 points on Ole Miss's stacked defense a year ago that led the conference in scoring defense. At Texas A&M, he made Bax Johnson look like Tom freaking Brady in the second half, and it took a blocked field goal to win that game. So there is some nerves there by me about Bobby Petrino and Pete Golding and how that's going to go. But my theory on that is you've got to stop the explosive runs from Arkansas to stop the offense. Everybody's talking about Taylen Green being able to throw the ball or be able to run the ball. You have to be able to stop the running back, because if you can't, Bobby Petrino is going to play action you and eat you alive.
That's right. Yeah, I'm the biggest Bobby Petrino fan there is, because I've always said there's not any other offensive-minded coach that has had success everywhere he's been for 20 straight years. I mean, you see coaches with offensive minds phase out. Bobby's still cooking. Even back from like the early 2000s, he's still getting it done. And I'm with you. Taylen Green is a great player, and I love him, but that offense that he leads can't be one-dimensional where you have to rely on his arm, because if it's his arm or his legs are his strength over his arm. And if you're forcing him to have to just throw every time, that's not going to be a recipe for success. It's going to lead to turnovers. So I'm with you. Arkansas runs the ball effectively. That's going to be their best shot of getting this done with a win.
And the weird storyline of this game, there's 3 players from Arkansas that transferred to Ole Miss. It looks like all 3 of them are going to see the field in some capacity. Of course they would. I mean, they probably want to play. It looks like Luke Haas is a little bit less. It might be a package type deal. But it's going to be interesting because there's probably a little bit of animosity from Fayetteville down here for the way it worked out. The players that left felt that because, their social media has been destroyed for the last 8 months. So they want to perform really well. And they're all good players. That's the thing that gets forgotten. They can all play. That's the reason Arkansas fans are ticked off about this, is they can all play. And I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know if they're all ready to go, but I do think all 3 of them are going to be on the field.
Yeah, it's a kind of a weird dynamic because Arkansas had players transfer a lot of places. They had one of the most like the biggest transfers of them leaving the program of any team in the SEC last year. They had a player go to Texas, had a player go to Kentucky, had 2 players go to Michigan, player go to UCLA, all over the place. But when 3 of them that were starters and were considered to be some of your best players from last year's team go to Ole Miss, it stings a little bit more. I don't think, and again, this is my opinion, I don't think Razorback fans have the animosity for a Jalen Braxton, because he got banged up after 1 game and didn't play the rest of the season. You could almost tell he's like, yeah, this guy's gone. So it's like, you don't like that, but at the same time, you're like, hey, whatever. If you don't want to be here, don't want to be here. Luke I don't think, maybe some do, but I don't think there's as much, because that was strictly a financial thing. Sam Pittman said it. It's like, hey, I mean, what do you want us to do? He got more to go over to Ole Miss. The Patrick Kudus one, though, is the one I think people take personally, because that was one that he didn't play much last year because he was banged up. Sam Pittman, he's asked about, hey, do you redshirt Kudus? Because he hadn't played in full 4 games yet. And they're like, yeah, I think we're going to hold him to redshirt him. And he's like, and Pittman said this in the press conference. He's like, I made sure that I asked Coot, is when he called him Coot, hey, I'm not going to redshirt you just so you can go to some other school next year. And he's like, no, coach, I wouldn't do that. I want to stay here at Arkansas. Pittman felt that. And Pittman is big on relationships. He's big on offensive linemen, obviously. And I think that's the one that stung the most. And I think that's the one that's going to be the most motivation for Pittman, for everybody too. Because also, real quick, side note, we had an offensive lineman podcast on my network with Inside Arkansas back during that time. And Kudus went on it and said the team that he does not like the most is Ole Miss. He said that. So it's like that right there, I think, is going to be the most intense feeling. But Arkansas definitely wants to show those players that, hey, you missed out from not staying here.
Yeah. And is there a chance that Carmona gets into a fight in that game? Because I've read his quotes after all the transfer and all that. They're going to be ready to go whenever they get down to Vaught Hemingway Stadium. That they want this game. This has a chance to be sneaky, not necessarily a dirty game. That has negative connotations, but it's going to be an intense, heated game.
Mm-hmm. As far as Carmona goes, I hope not. Because we talked about it. Like, this game has a chance to be so close that one play can make the difference. And as long, if you do it in the first quarter and the first 5 minutes, it's not to say that's good, but you can overcome that. But you just don't want to let the emotions get the best of you. Sam Pittman, though, is not that way. Sam Pittman's not a coach that tells him these things and to go do these things. However, I could tell in the Monday press conference from Sam Pittman that this one means a little bit more in his own way. It's going to mean a little bit more. So who knows? Maybe you see some of that because they're going to go fight for their coach and they're going to go fight for Arkansas. I'll be like, oh, well, yeah, well, you want more money? Well, there's more to football than money. So we're going to show you, maybe it's that. But I think, honestly, it's just going to be about, going out there and executing. But I feel offensively, you bring up someone like Carmona or whoever, if Ole Miss's defense start causing some problems and some issues and mess with it a little bit, then you may see emotions get the best of them. It could happen. But to start, I mean, again, I hope not, just because I'd rather win, rather beat them. And also, it's not the Ole Miss team. It's not like Carmona's going up against Patrick Kudus himself. It's like, it's Jalen Braxton's way over there, and Haz and Kudus are on the other side of the ball. So I don't know if it'll be that case.
Yeah, and Sam Pittman is such a nice guy that literally everybody likes Sam Pittman that I've talked to, including me. So you get like, hey, we're going to get Arkansas. It's a big rival for Ole Miss. This is going to be a fantastic game, but it's not like I hate those guys. It's not like the Egg Bowl for Ole Miss fans. This is just a fun game. It's absolutely stupid. The athletes are comparable usually, and go out there and let's just see what kind of ridiculousness happens.
Yeah, I'm with you because, just looking at it recently, I know we talked about the history of these teams, but one of my favorite things, I know Razorback fans love the fact that the Hunter Henry heave play kept the Ole Miss Rebels out of the SEC title game for their first time to be in it. Like, we like that. That's kind of funny, because it's so stupid that's what kept them out. But things like that, I think stick with people. And same thing with Ole Miss. Like, I don't think Ole Miss ruined any season for Arkansas or any chances of it. But there has been so many times where Arkansas may have felt like they were better than Ole Miss and they lose. And then there's times I'm sure that Ole Miss felt like they were better than Arkansas and they lost. I think back to that game in Fayetteville, I guess in 2022. Arkansas, every game they played was a one-possession game. They were a 6-6 team. They had gotten blown out in some cases, it seemed like, but they blow out Ole Miss at home. Everyone's like, why? Like, why did this happen? So it's just... It's nothing about like the animosity towards Ole Miss itself or any of that. It's more of just the animosity of the similarity of it and also the weirdness to where we're just hoping that we're not the one that is on the bad end of the weird game this time around.
Yeah, and I think it was Danny West that had a tweet like 5 years ago that says no team from Arkansas should never lose to either team from Mississippi in anything. And since then, Mississippi State and Ole Miss have won baseball national champions. The football team at Ole Miss is cookie. It is the all-time boomerang tweet that I can think of.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's what's really upsetting. Thank you for bringing it up about Ole Miss and Mississippi State winning baseball titles for Arkansas. It's great. But I will say, though, to be honest, your fans may not like this, but Arkansas fans in general feel about their program that football, generally speaking, should be just as good, if not better, than Ole Miss. Now, I'm not taking anything away from them. I'm not saying that Arkansas is going into this looking down upon Ole Miss. I think Razorback fans say, well, you got Lane Kiffin. We got Sam Pittman. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're winning because you got Lane Kiffin, not because you're Ole Miss. It's because you got Lane Kiffin. Razorback fans view it in the lens of, if you got two great coaches going at it, two great programs going at it, two great rosters going at it, if everything's even on the field itself, Arkansas is always going to win. That's how they view it. Mm-hmm. Now, it hasn't been even.
And honestly, that's how they should view it, honestly, or else why be a fan?
Exactly. And I think also, too, when Hugh Freeze was at Ole Miss, Arkansas had a lot of success against him. And I think that's also added because that, at the time, and you know this, Steven, that was at the time viewed as like the greatest run of Ole Miss football to that point that they had in a long time. And Arkansas fans were like, yeah, even in their best, they still can't beat us. So
yeah, they couldn't beat Burt. Oh my goodness, they couldn't beat Burt.
For whatever reason, I could not understand. But I think there's a big element of that too.
Yeah. So it should be pretty good. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about paths to victory and what is our prediction for this game. Honestly, I'm not at a number yet, but I will get there hopefully by the time we make a prediction. So stick around.
We'll continue on our discussion with Steven Willis of Locked On Ole Miss here in just a second. But first, folks, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply just move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Soft Safety Pick Plus awards than anybody else. And from footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings all the same attention into every model that they craft. You can also feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery, and you can make everyday drives feel like nothing but a smooth handling with the intuitive controls that they have. Like our players, we sweat every detail because you make every moment count. Impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. We're also presented by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here. College football season is here. And FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for the kickoff with this can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the entire app. It's that simple. And you got all the games to choose from when it comes to this weekend in college football, as well as the NFL. So be sure to check it out. Are you ready to play? Well, download the app with FanDuel by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
All right, we are back. Paths to victory. Now, Ole Miss is simple. Just play clean, run the football, do not turn the ball over. I think something that's more important in this game than most games is not giving away possessions, not giving short fields. If you do what you did at Kentucky to where you give Arkansas the ball twice on your own 32-yard line, it's going to be 14-0. And if you punt, they go and score again, it's 21-0 and the game is over. That is what you have to prepare against in this game. And I think they're going to do that. Austin Simmons' first home game, 2 interceptions. First road game, 2 interceptions. First scrimmage where he was a starter, 2 interceptions. His firsts have been very shaky, but after that, the last 2 scrimmages, he was very good. And so I am curious to see what he looks like. Take care of the football, play a clean game, try to maximize as much as possible, because the deep, dark, dirty secret that is out there right now, Ole Miss has started the first quarter very slow this season. They have dominated the second, third, and fourth quarters of the game. The problem is the Kentucky game, you were down 10-0. It doesn't, when that happens, it's not a 30-10 run in the game. You're like, oh, you only beat Kentucky by 1 score. But that is the reality of what happened. So I think that is the pathway for Ole Miss to win the game. Just play clean and do what you're supposed to do. Don't give Arkansas short fields and value possessions.
Yeah, because with Arkansas, they have, offensively at least, their first 2-3 drives of their games have been incredible. Like they just, because that's one of my favorite things about Bobby, even when he was back at Arkansas as the head coach way back when. The dude has opening drives like nobody's business. He can
scripts.
I mean, he can just do it. And so to me, if Ole Miss stops that, or if Arkansas doesn't score on their first possession, I'm like, oh, I don't like that. You know, it's like, I don't like the way that looks. But Arkansas's defense honestly has been different, where they look bad in the beginning. The opening drive against Alabama A&M that they had, where they went down and scored a touchdown, was one of the worst things I've ever seen. And Sam Pittman said so. But they settled in. The defense gave up a few things there in the second quarter against Arkansas State, but they settled in. It's about settling in. And I just don't want to, if I'm Arkansas, I'm not wanting to give Austin Simmons any confidence whatsoever. You have to come out hot. You have to do a good job defensively against him, because all it's going to take is him getting back into a little rhythm a little bit, and he's going to cook you, because Arkansas does not have the depth on the defensive line. I think their secondary is much more improved from what it was a year ago. Their linebackers are great with Xavier Sori and Steven Dix, but that D-line is going to be the key if they can stay rested, stay off the field too, as much as possible. That's going to be big. But I know for a fact, and I'll tell you all your Ole Miss fans this, if Arkansas wins the toss, they're going to elect to receive. They don't kick. They do not kick to start the game. They're going to elect to receive. If Ole Miss
by the way.
if they stop them on that opening drive, Ole Miss is going to win. But if Arkansas goes down the field and scores a touchdown, I'm not saying for sure Arkansas will win, but we're about to be in for a game that's about to get intense, and it's going to be one to where Arkansas's offense, when they get confidence, when Taylen Green gets confidence, he's a very hard player to stop.
Yeah, because like I said, I don't want to compare it, but Bobby Petrino coached Lamar Jackson at Louisville. So they do a lot of the same stuff, his legs, all of that. And the stuff that he learned from Lamar Jackson, he lets Taylen do that stuff, and he's good enough an athlete that he can make you pay a little bit for that. So what's your prediction for this game, John?
Trust me, I've been going back and forth on this, and I'll be honest. I have the right and the reservation to change this right before kick, because it's probably how it's going to go. But where I stand right now, I'm going to go ahead and say Arkansas wins. Just because, listen, it's a game that you never know what's going to happen. Arkansas is feeling good for once, for even if it's a split second, you got to be feeling good right now. And I'll go with the Hogs winning, and I'll go with it being a crazy game, a back and forth game. I think that you'll see some really great performances by players on both sides, but I think Arkansas gets away with the victory as they get a big lead, kind of maybe in the late third quarter, maybe 2 or 3 possessions. They nearly blow it, but they hold on to it. Ole Miss runs out of time. Maybe Simmons throws a pick. I got the Razorbacks winning. Give me 42-38.
Ooh, that's one of those games that would be like the 2021 game. One of those. I think that it's going to be a relatively low scoring game. Austin Simmons, as you saw in the Kentucky game, went off with an ankle injury. He's going to play. He's going to be fine. But because of that, I think Ole Miss is going to run the ball a little bit more. They're going to try and make their offense a little bit more varied. I think Ole Miss wins this game 28 to, let's say, 21.
Okay. So, yeah. Listen, I could see either one of those scenarios happening, but it's probably going to end up being 7-3, like it was that game that I saw my brothers in Christ, Arkansas lose to Mississippi State 7-3 a couple years ago. So it could go a lot of different directions. But hey, we can admit it's going to be fun though. It's going to be close. It's going to be wild. It's going to be enjoyable. But one team's got to win. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm glad that the odds are whenever it goes to 9 games, this game is going to stick around, because I don't want every other year Arkansas. I want Arkansas every single year. Anyway, John, Locked On Razorbacks, tell people how to watch your stuff after the game.
Yeah, Locked On Razorbacks. You can find it wherever podcasts are found, as well as on YouTube. Going to have all the recaps from it. And you can also check me on social media at John Nabors Show for all of my reactions and my live tweeting from that too. And Inside Arkansas, I do a live stream throughout the week and doing a lot of different content from that too. So all Razorback content for all you people out there. I got plenty of it for sure.
All right, you can check my stuff out after the game. We'll do a post-game live reaction show. We'll do the reaction roundtable on Sunday and talk about the game with other SEC hosts from Locked On Ole Miss. You can follow me at the Steven Willis on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, or the address down below. You can catch that as well. It should be fun. Anyway, John, have safe travels down to Oxford, man, and we'll talk to you later, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. It's going to be a great one.
Yeah, it should be.